Holy smokers, guys, we got another month, and you know what that means. We got another wave of ransomware to talk about. Today I'm going to be talking about the October 2019 top ransomware. I'm glad that you guys made it through that month of October. You didn't get poisoned by candy during Halloween, and you didn't get scared by a ghost, and you guys are still able to watch this video this month. So I'm super happy about that. For those of you guys that are new to my channel, I come out with this series each and every single month so that you guys can learn about the top ransomware cases each month and learn how to protect you guys and your organizations from getting these ransomware cases. And I always stress each and every video every month that it doesn't matter where you are at in the world. You can be in Antarctica, freezing your butt off, thousands of miles away from people, or you can be in Dulul, Ethiopia, supposedly the hottest place on average in the world, sweating 10 gallons of water, and you can still get hit with ransomware if you're connected to the internet. So, in all my examples I'm going to be talking about today, I stress different organizations that are getting hit with ransomware in different industries and also different locations all over the world so that you guys can see that, hey, this can happen to anyone, anywhere, in any organization of any size, any place in the world. So as usual, I'm going to be talking about 3 things on each of the video topics I'll be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about what happened. I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on those situations. And then I'm going to be talking about, most importantly, what to learn from those situations. So I hope you guys like this content. If you like this content, make sure to smash that like button to promote my content up in the YouTube algorithm to help more people like you guys help protect themselves from these crappy cybersecurity threats or reduce the risk of those crappy cybersecurity threats. All right, so the first case that we'll be talking about this month is from TrialWorks. The source comes from bleepingcomputer.com, and the article was from October 13th of 2019. I'll post the link down below in the description if you guys want to check it out more. I just realized in the middle of this presentation that my light levels were super low. I've corrected it, so hopefully you guys can see me a little bit better now than before. So some information about TrialWorks before we get into this situation more. They're the top legal case management software for providers for law firms and attorneys in the United States. They have 40,000 active customers and 2,500 law firms that are using this software. Basically, these law firms use this software to keep track of different court cases. So the situation here is TrialWorks notified their customers on October 13th of 2019 that there was a service outage. Basically, as you can see from the description here, we're currently experiencing a hosting outage at our data center. Our team is working on this issue. We will continue to communicate as we uncover additional information. All right, so the very next day, the company announces to their customers that ransomware is announced as the cause of the service outage. And it is kind of interesting. This was just released in a private email to those customers. They didn't release anything publicly at that time. All right, so as going on now, 2 days later, the company announces that they disinfected and are decrypting the systems and restoring data. This suggests that they paid the ransom.
I got major pain. Paying the ransom,
You guys know how I feel about that if you watched any of my videos before. We'll get to that later. Because of this ransomware, obviously these law firms weren't able to use this court case management software, and if you can't get into the software to manage the court cases, it makes it difficult to do your job as a lawyer, right? And so the law firms had to get extensions from the courts because they weren't able to access that software due to the ransomware. 4 days later, some of the firms were able to get back in and start doing their work inside of that system again, and then it wasn't fully restored for all the firms until 9 days later. So some of them, the outage wasn't too bad, and others, they had to wait over a week to get that information, to be able to access that information again, which if you're a criminal or you're being sued, maybe ransomware isn't such a bad thing because it can help delay your case, right? Don't try that at home if you're a criminal or being sued, but it's something to think about, right? And if you do that, you never heard that from this channel, and I didn't make any suggestions at all. Finally, there was a statement provided by Patrick Jimenez, TrialWorks Chief Consumer Advocate. He said, "We are not the first, nor will we be the last organization in our industry to be the target of one of these attacks. However, we have learned from this experience and are committed to expend all the resources required to both address this issue head on and mitigate the chance of ransomware." All right, so what are my thoughts and what can be learned from this situation? The first thing is, if you watch any of my ransomware videos, and this upsets me a lot when organizations do this, the ransomware was likely paid frown face. Usually a pretty happy person, so when I frown, it's a big deal. But yeah, I absolutely can't stand it when organizations pay the ransomware, because by paying the ransomware, you're encouraging these attackers or these hackers to keep putting more ransomware out and hitting more and more organizations. And you don't want that. I understand that a lot of times it's the fastest way to recover from these situations, but I do not support paying the ransomware. This is another example of an industry that we haven't talked about in the past. The software industry has been hit. It's affected users all over the country. And then the one big thing that I want to take out of this case is organizations and individuals need to prep for ransomware. That quote that I shared last, that I'll put up above here again. If you look through this quote, my personal perception of this is they didn't plan well enough for ransomware incidents. They've been hit with a ransomware incident, and now all of a sudden it becomes a big deal, and they're going to mitigate it now. I guess if they're like most organizations, they didn't take this seriously enough, and they wait until they get hit with ransomware, and then it's like, boom, all right, we got hit, we got to do something. No, you guys watching this video, you need to do something now before you get hit with ransomware. Make sure that you have a plan for ransomware. Make sure that you act like ransomware will happen, and make sure that your backup system is solid. You make sure that you're following the 3-2-1 backup strategy. If you don't know what that is, check out my card up above here, because I did a video on that so you guys can learn what that is. Having a solid backup system is one of the most important things. If you have a solid, correctly functioning backup system that you test on a monthly basis that's good enough for your environment, that can defeat ransomware. Also, make sure that you have proper security controls in place, such as running updates on your software, your operating systems, and updating your devices that are outdated. But the main point here is to make sure that you're taking security seriously in your organizations and preparing for ransomware, so when it comes, it's not as bad, or you guys can eliminate it quickly. All right, so the next ransomware case that I'll be talking about is from Pitney Bowes. The source is bleepingcomputer.com on October 14th of 2019. I'll post a link down below in the description so you guys can check that out, as always. All right, so what does Pitney Bowes do before we get into the case? They're a big mailing company. Like postage meters are kind of the big thing for this organization. So they do mailing, commerce, shipping, data, and financial services. But the postage meters are the huge thing. From my understanding, those postage meters basically allow customers to be able to have an automated way to weigh their products and get a postage label printed out and be able to pay for that postage, and make it super easy to ship things out and pay for the postage. Also, some more information about this organization. They have billions of transactions for 1.5 million clients. We're all over the world. 90% of Fortune 500 companies use Pitney Bowes for something in their organization. According to Wikipedia, they send 15 billion with a B pieces of mail annually. So if you put that in comparison, the world has what? Somewhere over 7 billion people. So they're sending out the equivalent of 2+ pieces of mail to everybody in the world in a year. That's just insane on the scale of this company. All right, so what happened in this situation? Well, obviously a ransomware incident was announced. The things that were impacted were your account service was down. So I'm guessing that people weren't able to manage their accounts because of that. The main thing was postage meter issues. Customers were unable to refill the balance on their postage meters. They couldn't refill their postage and they couldn't upload transactions for their postage meters. So from my understanding, the money that was on those postage meters was all they had to spend to be able to print out postage labels. They were still able to print out the postage labels down here. As you can see, label generation was not impacted, but they weren't able, if they were out of money on those postage meters, they were out of luck. Some other things that were impacted, I don't know enough about the software, what it is. For those of you guys that do, Mail 360 and MI Pro had some issues with services not being available. The support pages for those systems was not working right. The software and data maintenance sections of those systems was not working right as well. All right, so as I said before, the label generation for those postal meters was working fine. The back-end systems were not hit, so that's why that was still working for those. And then the organization said that customer data was not impacted, or the accounts were not impacted, so there was no stolen data and there was no customer data that was lost. All right, so now moving on to some updates by the organization as this ransomware case took place. Like I said, the incident happened on the 14th, so the very next day the organization released an update on their website basically saying that they were making progress to restore their systems. The postage meter refills were expected to be available later that day. They then came back with another statement later on saying that the refills should be available the next morning. They also had an update from their commerce services that all their cross-border and shipping technology customers continue to receive uninterrupted service and are not affected. We have brought many of our most important sortation facilities back online, and we are moving delivery parcels through our network again. Fulfillment has been more complex to solve, and we've begun to restart facilities. Further updates to follow. So apparently they had some issues with their sortation facilities as well and fulfilling orders for organizations. So then the next update that I saw was November 1st. At this time, Pitney Bowes believes it has contained and remediated the malware that encrypted information on some of the systems on October 12th. So I said October 14th before. That was the article. It actually happened on October 12th. And caused disruption to our systems and services. We have restored the majority of our operations and services to our clients globally. Again, we have seen no evidence that client or employee data has been improperly accessed from the Pitney Bowes network globally. In consultation with our security advisors, we do not believe clients or employees are at risk. Restoration of our remaining services remains our top priority. This site will continue to remain active and updated when new information is available. So what can be learned from this situation, and what are my thoughts on this situation? So this organization must have did something right. They're a massive organization with 1.5 million clients all over the world. They must have had isolated systems. They must have had some practices to update their hardware and their software and things like that. And that helped reduce the impacts only to their postage meters and some other services, instead of taking down the entire company so people couldn't do anything with them. So that's a good thing in this situation. They said in the statement that we're looking at all options to recover. That makes you wonder, well, Did they actually pay the ransom, or did they use a combination of paying the ransom and backups to recover? It's hard to say in this situation. I thought it was a little concerning that it was 2 weeks from when they first had an update, October 15th, to the last update that I saw as of the recording of this video on November 1st of the situation, and they were still recovering nearly 2 weeks later from that previous update. That's a little bit of concern, but it just goes to show that when ransomware hits, it can take a very long time to recover from that ransomware, even for a very large global organization. And then one last thing to learn from this video, it's another industry that we haven't talked about before. You know, it's a postal shipping industry, which I think is considered in the manufacturing sector, I believe. And the impact is worldwide, so it's not only in the United States. This is a worldwide impact. I believe there's 100 countries that use the services from this organization, so this is a really, really big deal. I think the top thing to take out of this is make sure that you have your systems isolated from each other. Make sure that you're updating hardware and your software on a consistent basis, because doing those actions can really reduce the spread of the ransomware and keep most of your organization functioning while you get hit with ransomware. All right, so now we're talking about our last case, which is the M6 group. And the source is from zdnet.com. This M6 group is the largest private media company in France. They were hit with ransomware, and luckily not very much was impacted. Their TV, their radio, and their film studio stayed up. Their phone lines and their email services went down. Which really, this isn't a big deal, because hey, if I'm over in France and they have the Nebraska game on, I'm still able to watch my game over in France. Who gives a crap if I can email them or if I can't call them, as long as my services are working correctly, right? Alright, so what can be learned from this situation, and what are my thoughts on this situation? This is really the best case scenario that you can ask for when getting hit with a ransomware case. All the critical services to that business were up and running. You know, it's a multimedia company, and they had their studios, they had their radio, they had their TV up, so they were able to broadcast all that information out and keep the money-making process going, which that's the biggest thing in an organization, is keeping those services running that make the company money, because without the money, the organization can't exist. One thing I forgot to mention previously is that this case was contained, and so it didn't spread. It appears that the IT people in the organization were able to shut it down before it spread further. And so this is what can happen if you have a good incident response plan and monitoring set in place, having active monitoring so that you can shut down any type of ransomware that's hitting your environment quickly so it doesn't spread. So that's something to take in, is make sure that if you have the funding for it and you're in a large organization, that you have good incident response plan and good monitoring to shut down these situations quickly. And then, you know, this is what happens when you have good security practices in your organization. Obviously, if this company didn't have good security practices, it would have spread and wiped out the whole organization from being able to do what they need to do, and costed the company a lot more money, because it would have taken down their core critical services that make them money. This is ultimately what you want in an organization. And then this is just a different location in the world that we haven't talked about. It's in France. It's not in the United States. It's in France, so it's just another example of a country that can be hit, and another example of it doesn't matter where you're at in the world, you can get hit with ransomware if you have an internet connection. And then this is just a really good case of, if you have good security practices, you could still get hit with ransomware, but the pain from the ransomware is way less. That's why you want to watch these videos and pay attention each and every month, so that you can learn this for your organization and help your organization in reducing the risk of these ransomware cases. And if you get hit with these ransomware cases, to make them so they're way less painful for your organization. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this video. If you guys like this video, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell to help my content rise up in the YouTube algorithm, to help more people like you prevent these terrible ransomware situations from happening, or reducing the risks that they happen and reducing the impact that they have in to you and your organization. I hope you guys like this content. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.